charges of murder or manslaughter, which one do you think is more likely?
I think that because the standard is so low at a preliminary hearing, there's only a reasonable suspicion standard. It's more likely than not that the judge will hold Mehserle to answer, and based on just the standard that he has, and then he will have to face the trial and allow a jury to decide how this case should be handled. But not only do you want to attack these charges, but you also need to get your story out. And I think the defense is doing that, knowing that people are going to be talking about what was going on that night, what were these officers facing, and putting that in perspective, because the only thing you've seen thus far are those videos, and that is a very difficult piece of evidence for the defense. So they want to depict a scenario that this was almost like a young officer walking into a combat situation, and that's the kind of situation that is a recipe for disaster. Mistakes can be made, but again, the prosecution wants to show that this is a situation that officers face every day, misdemeanor battery. It's not the kind of situation where you would panic. A well-trained, experienced officer deals with this every day. There was no reason for this to happen.
If the defense tries to claim that, in fact, Grant, I know they're saying that he'd been drinking earlier, or the situation was in Grant's fault, he was not behaving, or he was not being in control, is that in any way defense for...
It's a contextual situation. It does not give an officer an excuse to shoot someone just because they've been drinking or resisting. It's really going to be a question of what is a reasonable use of force, and whether this was a mistake. So all of those things are important factors, but did they play a factor in what Oscar Grant did just because he was drinking? I think that in and of itself would not be sufficient to warrant shooting somebody. So yeah, that's a relevant fact, but really it's the entirety of the situation. It's the situation that the officers felt that the crowd was gathering, people were throwing things. This was a riot that could have broke out, and it's into those situations that mistakes and tragedies happen. And I think that's where the defense is pointing this case, that we made a mistake here. It's not murder.
What do you think the likelihood is of a change of venue?
I think that the defense is going to have to ask for that because of this emotion. This is an emotional case for the Bay Area. People are invested in it. It's going to be very difficult to get a jury that's not so closely connected to the case here in the Bay Area. So I think that the defense, they're going to want 12 impartial people, even if they've seen the video, to at least judge this case based on all of the facts, not on the emotion of the community and what happens in the community every time there's a court appearance. That's a very large burden to put on a juror.
You think the defense will be successful?
Yes, I think they will get a change of venue.